Juicy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Floor is yours.
What's going on, everybody? Give me 1 second. I'm trying to pin this directly. Here it is. I think I got it up there. That's SPY, everybody. Hope everybody is well. I'm Juicy. So a while ago, we was talking about SPY being inside this choppy range, inside this descending wedge. Once price got above it, I was screaming, bull, bull, bull. Bulls are back. And since that breakout, we've seen nothing but up. So for me, we've done pretty well here in the market. We've seen a lot of rotations back in the financials. Today, we saw a huge rotation back into some of the China names, Baba, Baidu. A lot of volume. Those were fun to play. But overall, market sentiment, we're bullish. However, breaking out of this wedge and making this power move, I took some of my risk off. I did cut another quarter of my SoFi. I did take some of this profit from Tesla. I'm long Tesla at 762 on my longer term accounts. Shorter term swings, I had the square swing on overnight. I got rid of that today. I feel like we went too far up too fast after that breakout, and I'm expecting us to go a little bit sideways before going higher. But I have no reason to be bullish here. So for me, I'm bullish on the market, not bearish, but I am expecting some sideways movement coming up pretty soon.
Okay, well, I'll play that right on to you, Gert, because I saw you just posted about, SPY coming back to those all-time highs. Where's your feelings with the market right now?
I think tomorrow might be right, but we should hit all-time highs by Thursday or Friday. I mean, futures are green right now, but they're only about 10 basis points, so anything can happen. Like for tomorrow, what I'm watching UAL, they had earnings today. I think they were great, so I'm expecting a couple price upgrades for tomorrow pre-market. So
Okay. Well, I'm interested to see those as well. I know that we're both holding UAL calls. Again, also, I should just mention that nothing that's said on this space is financial advice or should be constituted as such. We're simply trying to be as transparent as possible. So we're going to talk about some of our holdings. We're going to talk about some things that we be, bullish or bearish on. But again, it is simply opinion, and I do highly recommend that you do your own due diligence. And there's plenty of resources that we're happy to point you all towards. And you can feel free to also DM with the speakers up here, if you want to be able to pick their brains a little bit, because obviously they only have so much time up here. And Andrew, going to you next.
What's going on, everyone? Thanks for having me on. So the market, looks pretty awesome right now. And we've had a really nice sequence of 4 days that were pretty much straight up. Really nice extended range green candles for the S&P 500. Right now, my trend model, it's still at a +3. So for me, with my trading system, I score the market on a scale of -3 to +3, and I do it in a way that's quantitative and repeatable. And I kind of use that as my North Star for my trading. So right now, the trend is up. We just got a breakout from consolidation in terms of breaking out from the monthly value area. And we have really nice seasonality coming up. Dark pool buyers are still active. So this is a very tough market to try to step out in front of, like on the short side or anything like that. Today, I didn't add any new risk, just because, similar to what Juicy was saying, the market is a little bit extended in the very short term. Like one of the moving averages I use, the 5-period exponential moving average, and we're pretty extended away from that 5 EMA. So like I would definitely welcome a little consolidation here. Who knows? Maybe we'll just keep ripping to the upside. But what I'm noticing is we're getting some rotation into a lot of the laggards for this year. Like the solar stocks are having a really nice sequence. We're starting to see money moving into the Chinese equities. And I'm currently overweight China. So I have a position in KWeb and a position in Alibaba. And then today we even started to see a movement into cannabis stocks, the MSOS ETF. So that's a pretty interesting dynamic. So still pretty bullish. And then we have Bitcoin, ripping to the highs. Still very bullish, but I didn't add to any new positions today.
Yeah, speaking of cannabis stocks, I also have some MJ that is also a cannabis ETF, which is doing good. And we're also going to be having a cannabis Twitter space next Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST. So look forward to that with Brad and the Wolf of Weed Street, Jason. So those will be some good stuff. Now, you mentioned the 5-day EMA there. So speaking of somebody who I know likes to use that, Wolfie, would love to hear your thoughts on what's going on in the market.
Yeah, no, last time we had this call, I was basically saying that we get to these points where we have exhaustion or like exacerbated moves to the downside, and then you run into major trends or major pivots or major support, and then you get these snapback rallies and rotations that give you violent returns, and then at the same time you'll get like some of the leaders will, whether it's Google or Microsoft, will hold up, and then you'll get other ones that have been beaten to shreds will bounce off of like key pivots at the same time. Um, so just like last time, we were talking about how um, things were pretty much over the top to the like too far, too fast to the downside. I think we're kind of getting there slowly but surely into like the meat of earnings next week. Now, that being said, like if you just overlay the market and overlay it with Bitcoin, it's like 1 to 1. So, and I'll give you an example. Tesla, if you pull back 5 years, they trade at a point 0.9 with Bitcoin, which is basically like 90% of uh, their price actions correlated with Bitcoin. Now you have Bitcoin at an all-time high. I would like to see a washout. Like I'd like to see, people think it being a double top, um, and then have a little bit of consolidation so that we can kind of hold steady and gear up for the end of year performance chase. But I'm not sure what the name of the speaker before me was. I think it might have been Andrew, but I'm not sure. But what he said is exactly spot on. So you're seeing a lot of these beaten up names, a lot of these beaten up sectors, a lot of these smaller stocks that are just going one after the other. And it's not necessarily small in terms of like 5 billion, 10 billion, but like even the quote unquote smaller names that haven't done anything for 6 months. So last time we talked about like Roku, we talked about like Zoom, things like that. You're getting a lot of these snapbacks. So yeah, but outside of that, I use the 10-day, 50-day as like a little bit of a gauge. Generally, I look for the 10-day moving averages to fall below 20%, so 20% of stocks below above their 10-day, and then 40% for 50-day, and that usually tells me that we're a little bit of exhausted. We were at that last time, and just to show you like how quickly things turn, we're at 75% of stocks are above their 10-day today, and 55 above their 50-day. So like things move really quickly and really violently, and when that happens, I like to kind of like ease up, let them have their earnings, let them announce stuff. You'll get a lot of IV crush like you saw on Netflix, and then you can pick up and go from there.
Yeah, there definitely was some quick moves. I mean, as we were talking about them on Spaces over the last few days, you saw things like, AFRM, HUT, even, some moves in Snapchat and DraftKings, SoFi, just some quick pops to pull us back over some of those moving averages. It's amazing how fast, the sentiment can change. And I agree with you as we get into really the meat of this earnings season with some of the FANG names representing, we're going to, I think, get a better feel for where this market's going. There often tends to be a bit of a bullish sentiment, I feel like, going into the end of the year in the last month or two. And, if we can come off of some really high earnings, and, these earnings, I feel like mean a little bit more than some of the past. So when we had maybe a quarter or two ago, there was some blowout, year over year earnings, but you looked at it and said, hey, the pandemic was a year ago, everything looks out of proportion. And now we're coming back into, I think, a regular, year over year cycle where people are just going to take less with a grain of salt and more in reality as to what these earnings mean. Do you think that's kind of along the lines of what you're saying?
So yes and no. I think it's gonna be company to company. I think that a lot of the bad news, like people are gonna bake in a lot of bad news, and a lot of companies are going to use bad news as like a mulligan. So, one of the things people are gonna be able to say is supply chain, for example. So, I would say look for the number of companies that do. The way I'd look at it is look for the companies that don't need to use the excuse. So, if you've got, let's say, two trucking companies, and one of them I'll use an easier one. Take a look at FedEx and UPS, right? So we talked about those last week. Talked about how FedEx is coming into major support and it should rally, blah blah blah. So let's say they go into earnings, and one of them says we're having supply chain issues, we're having operational issues because of what's going on, and the other one doesn't, right? The other one's like, nope, we were able to overcome it. What you're going to see is people are going to, give the benefit to the one that doesn't have to say it. So I think that's kind of like how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at what companies are not going to need to use the excuse. So again, if you just use the same example, Target, Walmart, yada, yada, yada. So I think if you look at it that way, the last space we had, someone mentioned a statement which is like very true. It's a lot of times earnings season just kind of sets the table for what your next leg of leadership will be. So, momentum traders look for momentum, value look for value, and then, the other types of investors look for other things. But generally, leaders lead. So you're going to have multiple types of investors or traders trading similar names if they're outperforming. So, generally what I like to do with earnings season is what I explained earlier, just before this, but also look for what's going to lead. So, JP Morgan announced last week, they didn't do too hot. Goldman announced on Friday, they crushed it. So I like to see if that's like a one-off or if it's like a thing that continues. And then if it continues, you can kind of weed out your list from there and be like, okay, so if I want to trade banks, I want to be in Bank of America and Goldman because they're performing. I don't want to be in this one and that one because they're not. So that's kind of how I look at it for earnings season now, because you got to be selective because of what you said.
Perfect. Perfect. I appreciate the elaborate overview there. Thank you, Wolfie. And I'm going to keep the ball rolling. Sarah, it's a pleasure having you join us again. Thank you for coming on.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Always, always love having you here. Let's talk some SPY. Let's talk some market sentiment. What's going on?
Let's do it. Sometimes I get on here and uh everybody is, a lot of these guys on here, I mean, they're so great at what they do. They're so smart. They know all these fundamental things, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't know any of this stuff. But I'm a price action trader, and it's just cool to like hear all the different things and views on earnings and all that. But the last time I was on, I made a very, very simple statement. And what it was I said, I am bullish as long as we are above September's low. So if we're not trading below September's low, I'm bullish. If we're trading below it, I'm bearish. It was just a very simple statement. And also, I think a lot of people know, probably not everybody knows, I trade the strat, and part of that is incorporating outside bars into our strategy. So in September, when we were halfway through the month, I was calling for a bearish outside month, and then just recently, now I'm calling for a bullish outside month for October. So back-to-back outside months. And you've seen, I mean, we've retraced like 80% already of last month's entire candle. So as far as I can tell, we're going back up to all-time highs. And it does look pretty extended. There's a lot of gaps on the SPY daily chart, I know. But so far, every time they've tried to sell it down, those are failing, and the dips are just getting eaten up like crazy, like they have been for the past year and a half plus. So still, I mean, for those people who are investors and long-term traders, there's absolutely no reason to be nervous. I know September made some people nervous, but now you've got your monthly higher lows in September, so people can use those as stops if they're trading long term. So basically, in a nutshell, bullish, looking for all-time highs.
That's what we love to hear. And as I'm looking at this market, it is just, severely respecting the 50-day moving average. If you go all the way back to, those March, or I guess kind of back to November, really is when it kind of takes off, and then it just continuously, retests it numerous times. It retested in March twice, it retested in May, in June, in July, and then, finally it kind of broke through it. But now we've come back, on top of that, sitting back on it, a nice amount of volume up here. and RSI is looking pretty good as well. Which are there any moving averages that you're necessarily paying attention to? Are there any of the oscillators or anything else that kind of gives you indication, or is your style a bit different?
I don't use any of that. I just use price action. And it's funny because so over the past, I think it was, I lost track of counting. I was counting. It's like 11 or 12 months that SPY had not made a lower low on the monthly chart. So I was like waiting for that. But then in October, because that's when an actual correction can happen, when you finally break a previous month's low, excluding threes though, outside bars. So no, I definitely don't use any moving averages, indicators, oscillators. I just don't, because price is going to tell me what the oscillators are going to do before the oscillator actually does it.
Okay, definitely a fair approach. And just give me one more minute here of what does price action mean to you? How do you track it? What do you interpret from it? From somebody who has never used price action before as a for their analysis.
I guess the best way to, oh, that's like a hard question. Just the candles, I've never been asked that question before. What do I consider price action? It's current, it's real, it's the only truth that there is. There's no opinion. It's not subjective. Everybody can see the same thing.
Well,
I
there you
don't
go.
really
I,
know
I
what else
won't
to.
I won't make you dive into the rabbit hole. There's no worries. I appreciate the insights there, and I'm just throwing out whatever comes to mind. And if there's ever anything that comes up kind of throughout these calls that I think maybe someone in the audience might not know, I do try to just poke and prod a little bit. So no concerns.
Oh, all good, all good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. I am going to keep it moving. I see the hand, Andrew. I'm going to keep getting some more of our speakers involved, and then we'll probably go towards more just individuals. But Shark, my man, what's going on?
What's up, brother? How you
Oh,
doing?
living the dream. Good to hear from you. Glad you made it.
Yeah, I'm always here. No, I mean, everyone. It seems like everyone has kind of similar outlooks a little bit on the market. I'm kind of with everyone. We're a little overextended. I believe that we'll probably have some kind of retractment or revision to the mean a little bit this week, but I do believe we'll be hitting all-time highs relatively soon here. The things that I've been trading have been a little bit like off the radar, unconventional plays. Last time we even spoke, I kind of gave the community a little bit of an unconventional play to check out uranium, and then uranium just made an all-time high, not an all-time high, an all-time high going back to 2014. So that's one that I've been playing uranium since the beginning of September, and it's just been a rock star. Solar was another one that we played. Amazing. I've been loving Bitcoin and basically the blockchain, my blockchain like watch list that I have. I've been playing those. Those have been fire. But I'm still day trading. This movement has been amazing, right? But in my mind too, I think that there was too many people, and this is just, everyone's different too, but I've been looking into some things. There was a lot for a while there. Everyone was predicting that bottom. Everyone was thinking that it was going to pull back. We were finally, all this bad news, all the stuff going on with China. There's just a lot of, supply chain issues. There's a lot of issues out there. But when I was kind of analyzing some of the put call ratios, we were just so heavily on one side. Basically, there was so many puts coming in throughout, mid-September to high October, that also a lot of these gap ups are looking like a lot of just stop losses are just getting destroyed out, right? They're just getting eaten up, and we're kind of gapping up and continuing to run. There has been some, obviously economic catalysts, the announcement of the port in LA being kind of going 24/7 did help out. There has been a lot of price action actually after that. But a lot of what even like Wolfie was talking about, right? What I'm even doing right now during earnings season is I'm trying to find what companies are able and are already dealing with the one, supply chain issues. How are they navigating that? And has it affected their forward-thinking earnings? And then two, also, how are they dealing with Delta, or the COVID? Is it something that they've kind of, as a company, have moved forward? They're looking to broader horizons, or is it something that is still affecting them in the sense of workforce, all of that? So a couple things that I'm looking out for, but I do believe, like a lot of the guests are saying, a lot of speakers are saying that we're kind of in the opportunity for new highs within the broad market is definitely there. And then last time, I don't know who was here, but people that are listening, yeah, I mean, the whole community kind of gave out solar before it ever ran, and then solar's just been fire. So that's kind of it for me, what I'm watching. And like I said, everyone here is just amazing. I love all the content, so I really appreciate being included with this amazing panel.
Absolutely, Shark, and it's a pleasure having you. And you did give out that play. We've had a lot of plays on these calls that have really been working nicely over the past few weeks. So I would recommend everybody stick around for really the entirety of this call, especially as we get into some individual tickers in the latter half. Some names that have just been thrown out, like SLI, that was one that we did a couple weeks back. It's up like 20, maybe like 30 something percent since, maybe even more than that. We've discussed, Coin on one of our other calls, AFRM. Caught a lot of these things early, and again, you've got to do your own due diligence, but it certainly helps to be able to listen to people, take in different names, add them to your watch list, dive into them a little bit deeper. And since we're about 25 minutes in and at almost 700 people, I just want to take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Gav Blacksberg. I'm the community director at Wolf, also known as the Wolf app. Link in my bio. My full-time job is actually being on Twitter with y'all and hosting spaces. Did 5 hours yesterday, doing 11 spaces total this week, including 3 tomorrow. One of them with Jonah Lupton. Hey, Jonah, see you in the crowd. And, I'm just going to be here. And my ultimate goal is just to bring together, again, these fine minds in the business world and the finance world and put them into a room, pelt them with questions, and do it all for free. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you're following all these speakers. Make sure that you're joining up with the Wolfpack. And it's awesome to have you all here. I'm going to keep the ball rolling. Mr. Danny Nas, the floor is yours.
Hey, what's going on, Wolf? Hey, all the panelists and everybody in the crowd. Good to be with you all again. Sorry I was running a little late. I had another engagement that was going. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of great names thrown around. And I think for me, like I've been saying, the name of the game is watching where the strength is. So, taking a look at SPY, if we are going to make new highs, well, let's look back in the past 2 weeks. What's held up? What came down to resistance and has bounced? That's where the relative strength is going to be, and that's where my money's going to go. But outside of that, tracking this ABC correction on SPY, it looks like we're coming up. Could we have a double top? Sure, and then we can make our way right back down. But I'm still just going to focus on individual names. I don't remember who just called this out, but yeah, I'm still day trading. And in fact, I'm actually doing some really short swings. I've been holding some things overnight, which I hadn't been doing in the last few weeks. For the most part, that's been working out. I know last week we talked about HUT. That's been on the move. We talked about Sophie. That's been on the move. FCX, Copper Space. Big shout out to Bros, BROS, that coffee chain. That's been up like 25% since last week. So there's individual names that are running, and when the market's moving sideways or starting to grind and pull back and grind and pull back, I'm looking for what's outperforming the market. We talked about TAN a couple of weeks ago. That was doing really well today. I'm still not I'm not with Andrew yet on the Chinese stocks, although it's been a really nice bounce play. I think for me, it remains to be seen if they're going to have a continuation strength, depending on where we go. Energy has still been pretty good. ZOM has been doing well. Coinbase had a really nice move today. It gapped over 300. Don't know if anybody caught that. It pulled right back to 295. And I think we closed the day, we closed the day at 309. So hello, that was a beautiful pullback opportunity to get it right under 3. You could have just taken the breakout over 300 again. So, for me, again, the name of the game is find the strength. It's like a little game that you're going to play, like hide and go seek. Well, we have to seek out where the strength is. And right now I'm looking at Penn. I think Penn is ripe for breaking out. It's right on the verge. It's right at that 8150 mark that I've been watching. SE, I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but man, that stock just keeps grinding up. Just buy the dips on it. It keeps going up. Workday, WDAY, another one that's moving now. PLTR is back near 25. It's showing a little strength. So again, the name of the game is hide and go seek. Where is the strength?
Several names that I do love. You mentioned in there, SC, that's one of the largest in my portfolio. Just consistently been in there and buying those dips, like you said, averages about 250 right now. Probably should have bought more on that last dip, and it just ran this last week up 13%. And also, big shout out to you, Danny, keeping up with these news stories every single morning. I love to go to your feed and just check them out. You had something there on Tesla, Fastly, Square, Coin, a lot of different information. So I appreciate you putting those out.
Yeah, my pleasure. I try and keep up on a daily news thread in the mornings. So if you're not following me, at the very least, just check out my usually 7:30 in the morning. I'll post a news feed and I'll keep it in a thread so everything keeps contained. So even if you want to come back to it later in the day, just find that feed and it's all there.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much. Real quick, so someone just mentioned to me, I think, first off, for pinning, if any of my hosts, any of my speakers want to pin something, it is not web only. You can do it on your phone. You just need to go into the post, click on the share button, and then it'll be at the top. So it'll say pin into the space or something like that. And if you need me to pin something for you, just DM it to me and I will pin it for you to my speakers. Also, somebody asked, how can I find all of your spaces? Well, sadly, Twitter only allows you to put out one reminder tweet at a time. However, because of that, I've started a free Google Calendar. If you want my spaces automatically added to your calendar, and I keep track of making sure this is updated, just DM me. I want to be added to the calendar with your email. Please put your email in there, and I will add you for free to the calendar. Nobody else can see your information. There's hundreds of people on this calendar. And yeah, it's just a really easy way. It's also my pinned tweet. I made a whole schedule for the week, so you can feel free to check that out as well. Cool. Keeping the ball moving, Mel Stone. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Would love to hear your thoughts on the market.
Just been watching, kind of interesting because as we're seeing more out of the money, and not just necessarily one of the major ETFs, but you're seeing them kind of come through and grouping together, SPY, Q, IWM, and did have some activity in SPY that I did find interesting yesterday, some call flow. We had over 8 million in premium come into these, into the December 17th, 458 calls, and that's when we were currently trading at 446 spot. So just do seem to have some positioning going a little bit further dated, but also seeing some nice size behind it. So not the smaller notional, but some larger positioning, and also keeping an eye on the VIX. Yesterday we had quite a few calls closing out, so that means that they're going to go ahead and lock in that profit into November 17th, which will be our front month $20 calls. So kind of interesting to see that they're closing out of positions opposed to kind of adding on a little bit of protection, especially into that front month. So kind of just some observations I've been seeing as far as the major ETFs. Otherwise, like seeing some of the sweeper flow coming into names that have had some constructive basing, some of those snapbacks that have kind of been down here at lows, but have been forming some bases. So I've just been doing similar to others, a lot of day trading and just really using the flow to kind of catch some of those names that they're coming into. FSLY was a really good one today. It came in with some size, and that one, just because we have that higher short interest, definitely just took off, and they kept coming into that one. So that's been a really good guide for me as far as intraday, which names they want to come after, and still continuing to see nice options flow coming into the TAN ETF as well as some of the solar names, going a little bit further dated. So I like that. It's not just something that they're looking at shorter term, but actually putting money to work into next year expirations. FSLR was one today where they were going out to March or June. It's June. So some nicer positioning with over 1 million into FSLR, but also staying mindful that we do have earnings season right around the corner for a lot of these. So just kind of trying to keep those shorter. I don't like to hold through ER.
Amazing. I'm taking a look at some of those names. Fastly, the old FinTwit favorite there. Everyone kind of fell in love with that during that initial run up, and then I think it burned a lot of people on the way down. So it's interesting to see it have that pop. I think about 10% today. I'd be interested to see this one and see if it could get back closer to that 200-day moving average. There's not a ton of volume through that point. Also, if anyone's unfamiliar, Mel is one of the best at tracking dark pools, tracking volume, seeing some of those big trades come in. If you're kind of wondering like what really moves the market, well, just as a reminder, most of the market is institutional investment and traders. And although that number has significantly increased of retail investors to upwards of, almost near high 20s to 30%, it's still largely, institutions, algorithmic trading, things along those lines. So we can track oftentimes some of that order flow publicly and see, all right, well, somebody just came in and they put $100 billion, on this to move. They think that they're bullish on it, they're bearish on it. So Mel's really good at tracking those. She works with Black Box Stocks, who I believe we'll be doing a space together with on Thursday. So if you want to see more of that stuff, be sure to be following her. So Mel, on some of these names, let me just dig in real quick on FSLR. So with solar, right, it's coming back to kind of near its all-time highs. And when a stock does this, where it had this run up initially back in January, did the U, came back up all the way to the all-time highs, and now we're reaching an area where there is no real volume or a ton to go off of. What do you look at in order to, base whether you're bullish or bearish on the stock?
I think technically you have a nice setup here. Like you said, it's really come up along the right side. Well, we're right at a resistance area. You've got this ascending triangle. So looking, for volume on that breakout. But that's what makes it even more interesting when you are seeing institutional money attracted even at these higher levels. So, of course, we want to see that support and to see the activity I was mentioning was the 617, 110 calls. And that's when we were currently trading around 109 today, and we've got about 1.1 million going into those coming in above the ask. So just interesting to see. But that's the thing. New leaders emerge, and just because something is at highs doesn't mean it can't continue to go higher. And that's where we get to find those new leaders, the new sector rotation. So seeing a commitment by larger funds, larger institutional traders to continue to even come in at these levels, I tend to just try to stick with the same strike and expiration that they're going with.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. That's a similar strategy to what I've been doing. I sat down. I know that there's several sites that track this stuff. I was looking through, Black Box, Unusual Whales, Quant Data, and just looking at some of the bigger moves in the market. So right up there with you. Real quick, Sarah, I just pinned that post for you. Did you want to tell people what that's about? Oh, looks like Sarah got pushed down, so I'm going to bring her back up. While we're waiting for Sarah to get back up, Vegas, would you like to speak?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone here again this evening. Thanks for coming by. Well, it was quite an interesting day today. We saw obviously some earnings on J&J, and that had a nice move today. So day traded J&J. And very interesting that we saw Apple have a move as well. And Apple's kind of odd, right? Because whenever they have an event, I've always found that the event becomes like a non-event, and surprisingly this time the stock's actually held up. So I like the fact that it did go over this 148 level. I'd like it to see that one break 150. I didn't trade Apple though, because I kind of have been frustrated trading it in the past. I've kind of been burned on that one, so I've kind of stayed away. But if you've traded it or anyone on here did, congrats to you. I am definitely eyeing Pinterest, because I know I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but it's starting to have that activity, and I see that Pinterest looks like it's on a new uptrend as well, and I kind of like it because it's kind of one of those less controversial social media stocks, and it had a really nice volume surge coming up on here, and I think that we have some really good support here at the $54 level. So I would like to see Pinterest really more for a swing trade into next week. So I'm looking to probably take a starter on that. Probably tomorrow. I didn't take a position on it just yet. And we know that a lot of the financial stocks are, a lot of the earnings have come out. And it was quite evident seeing the activity on JP Morgan and Wells Fargo. There was a lot of also dark pool flow on that last week. And so based on the activity of how these have performed now, we can see that the sentiment is bullish on JPM and Wells Fargo. I'm still waiting for Morgan Stanley's to trigger on a bullish momentum. I'm waiting for that 103 break. I thought I was going to see that today when it got towards 102.45, but it didn't make it yet. So right now it's just on watch. The other one too that I'm eyeing is NIO. NIO's kind of basing right now. So I think that one's looking good for a continuation longer term. NIO I find a little choppy sometimes to trade as well. So I'm kind of liking NIO, really out towards December, $40 range and up for an options activity there. So NIO definitely looks like it's basing. And Mara, by the way, was really nice today. I like the way it closed. Looking for Mara to have this continuation as well, so long it stays over, $52. But I really like in Mara to see another couple points. I'd like to see this head towards 56 probably this week on Mara. So those are kinds of what I'm watching right now. Mara, I'm in Mara, but I'm not in the other ones.
Awesome. I'm definitely focused on several of those names. I very sadly got out of Mara too soon. Should have waited for a bit more of a run up. I'm also glad to hear you talk about pins right here and the bullishness on pins. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
On why I like it, or
yeah.
Yeah. So I like Pinterest, first of all, because, I'm not a big Pinterest user because, you have to spend time on there and pin all these pictures. But I do enjoy using the app because I find it relaxing. You get all kinds of ideas. You kind of get lost in there once you start going in there. And I like the e-com feature they have in there. I think it's had a really nice move on the actual stock, and we know that the stock has traded way higher than where it's trading right now. It's around this. Today it went all the way to that 54 mark, and it went all the way to 55.61. So I do really like where it's at right now, and I want to see this head towards $60. I think we can do this. I think it's having a nice expansion break, and I kind of like the pocket pivot also on the chart. So whenever I see like a pocket pivot, for me personally, it's like a footprint of, telling me that this is poised to go higher. And so I'm looking for that action to come. And the earnings is going to be also next week. So, kind of looking for them to have some probably good news, not necessarily hold into earnings, but definitely once the earnings is out, maybe go back into the options. But definitely would like to see how this plays out between now and I think the earnings is on the 26th of October. So definitely liking that one. I like the way it's uptrending now. Looks like it's definitely ready for a nice leg up.
Perfect. Thank you. Keeping my eye on that as well. And awesome. Well, thank you, Vegas, also for being on all these spaces with me. We did one last night, another one now. I'm sure we probably have more this week.
Yes, we love it. We love talking to everyone and connecting with everyone. And I love knowing that whatever we talk about is helping people. So if it's helping, it's great. That's the whole point of doing these, is to share and to obviously help everyone. So glad that that we're doing that. I know that because people are commenting. So definitely appreciate the feedback from everyone and the follows and the likes and the wonderful team that's on here as well. Thanks to everyone.
Yeah, and it really has become a team. So I completely agree. And big shout out to everybody that's in the audience. Again, I've said this on Spaces before, but you had a lot of options tonight, right? You could be going out to the bar to have a drink. You could be watching TV. You could be doing something else. But what you did was you chose to come on here and to educate yourselves, along with me. I am not the educator here. I am just trying to be, the moderator, the one to bring people together. I'm learning every single day. I'm recently, decently early into my trading career, and I have that, several decades of horizon. And so I figured, why not just completely absorb as much as we can now? And for anybody, that is missing any pieces of this, or you want to re-listen to it, again, this is being recorded as well, and I will put it up on my Spotify, on my YouTube, and I will post out links to the timeline. So if you are following, you will see those. And also thank you to everybody in the DMs who's saying such nice things, to be honest. I'm trying to keep a focus on a few different things here, but I really do appreciate you all. And exclusive, thank you for being so patient. I appreciate you. I know you have all these setups and tons to talk about, so I'm excited to hear it.
Oh man, yeah, it's a long list. I'll try to keep it brief. First of all, thank you for having me. Great to be around a bunch of great analysts and traders here. So it's always a pleasure to educate myself too, because we're always learning. No one's perfect, so it's always a learning process. We, we obviously had a really good start to the week coming in. SPY coming off of those really, really, I want to say juicy levels that a lot of people like to, a lot of the bulls activate on these types of levels. And right now, let me pull up my chart. So right now, as far as SPY goes, what was kind of our trigger to get a little bit more aggressive was we were waiting for a bounce off of the 21 EMA weekly, and it held that for the past, I want to say 4 weeks. This is now the 5th week that it's held, and now it's above the 8. So that was something that we looked for as far as continuation to the upside, back to the all-time highs. So we're anticipating at least until we get some extension on the relative strength index over 65. So we're still, we're extremely bullish for now, and we're just going to keep on riding the wave until it has nothing left to give. So just ride the wave and follow the flow and the price action. So individually, obviously yesterday, we were talking about coin that turned into an extreme ripper. I mean, our 285s were deep in the money, 300s. I know you were personally that was a great trade too. Well, obviously we rolled up a little bit, and we're just going to keep on riding that wave with Bitcoin getting near all-time highs. I mean, it's just going to be one of those situations where crypto names, specifically Bitcoin-related names, are going to just keep on moving, and we're going to scalp it, and we might even swing some trades as long as they're risk-free. And when I say, for those who don't know, risk-free, it means that we've at least scaled out 50% of our position, over 50% return on investment, so that we can have the ability to swing overnight risk-free and not be at the mercy of a gap down or a gap up in the opposite direction. So as far as individual names that we're currently in, we've got a couple of Chinese names that we were swinging. I've been in BABA I got a starter position towards the beginning of the month on the 5th. And we had expirations for 160 and 180 calls for next week, which the 180s are about in the money, the 160s are deep in the money. Those were approaching 600% returns. So we're looking for more from Baba. We've been waiting and waiting for this stock because it's been so beaten down. And those are the kind of names that you like to see when you chart them. You're seeing these consolidative periods and these beatdown periods, and that inevitably leads to a downtrend. And then when you see that downtrend break, that's when you make your move or a bounce off of these really strong moving averages like the 50, 100, and 200 daily. So those are some things we like to look for when we're charting technicals. We're big advocates of Fibonacci retracements, not because they're 100% bulletproof, but mainly because a lot of trader psychology goes behind them. And especially when we look at different time frames, you see these multiple periods of times where the levels kind of overlap from the past to the present. So those are confluence levels, and those are really, really strong. I just posted a chart a while ago. My partner and I were looking at coin for continuation. So we posted that, shared it to the group. I think it's pinned. Yes. So we've, of course, it's going to depend a lot on the crypto action side of it, but we're looking for some more continuation to these confluence levels over 306 plus. So we're going to keep rolling up calls. It's pretty much profit at this point, so we're going to keep on rolling up to 305s, 310s, 320s, etc. And then we're gonna take profit when we have it. There's no such thing as too small, so we'll take profits where we get them. Some stocks we looked at today. I know someone mentioned Penn earlier. We've been watching Penn for a couple weeks here now, and today was the move outside of the wedge that we were looking for, a little bit of a back test. So we've got some 82 calls that started moving slightly, and we picked up DraftKings as well, similar setup, and those kind of ripped a little bit quicker. It did get a pump on CNBC, so that kind of helped us out. We've got some earning lottos for Netflix, of course. But we were very, very cautious with earnings. We usually don't like to play those unless we have profits to spend, because earnings, especially now more than ever with so many new retail traders, I want to say earnings to an extent get manipulated, and a lot of people get knocked out of their stop losses. So we try to make sure we only use profit when we're playing these, or expect them to go to zero. In other words, if you're an option trader, expect it to go to zero. Another stock that we were looking at as well for continuation, we had Amazon from yesterday. Those are for next week because we knew there was going to be a little bit of a pullback. It did pull back, but of course we took profits, so we're in that risk-free, not really worried about it too much. And then a couple of other sectors, but I don't want to take up too much time and give everyone else a chance to speak. But those are some of the main things we were looking at too.
Perfect. I have a couple follow-up questions on there. So first, you're talking
Absolutely.
about Coin, which is one that we were trading live on Spaces the other day. We took that 30% profit, which you know what, Evan, a win is a win, and we'll take it.
Absolutely.
Um, and now you're talking about, rolling them up. But, where does it become overextended to you when it's had, you look at the last, what, 4 trading sessions, massive green candles. I mean, obviously today was a bit smaller, but just it's been running on huge volume. Is it, where do you see it getting, perhaps overextended? Where do you stop rolling up these calls?
So, and that's a great question. So when we're looking at something that's got this type of momentum behind it, and of course that's related to the crypto and mainly Bitcoin, when you see a lot of these sympathy moves, they're all moving in they're all moving in sympathy with each other. So when we're seeing one that's performing, the other that's performing, and then a couple of other correlated and cointegrated names, what that tells us is that we have potential for more upside. And when we're rolling up a position, what that means is we're basically closing out most of, if not all of our previous position, keeping a portion of profit and using the other portion of the profit to get a risk-free position. So we're never really risking our original investment. So when you're going from 285 call to a 300 call, of course you've already made money. So keep letting those keep watering the flowers and cut the weeds and stuff that's pulling back. But as far as extension levels, when we see something that's extended on the Fibonacci side of things, we see confluence levels from what I was saying earlier, previous points in time. And what I'm talking about specifically is from the highs in August to the lows in early August, late July. When those levels, from a negative perspective of Fibonacci levels, correlate to extended positive levels, we have those are around the 315 range for us. That's when we start to be a little bit on our toes. And if it breaks through a really strong pivot, which in this case is a 306.80 pivot, it's just now testing that level. So there's no reason for us to panic with our positions. In fact, if I see 5 days of volume increasing, that means more and more people are getting involved. And of course, you want to be completely risk-free at that point if you're overextended. But there's no reason for us to get scared with our position as long as it's staying above, like I was mentioning to you in the DMs, we have our stop loss and we'll move it up slowly but surely. And if we get a minor pullback, it doesn't knock us out of our position because stop loss hunting is a real thing. There's institutions that will specifically pull down the price on these names or on the market as a whole and knock a bunch of retail traders out of these trades before they have a chance to blossom. In which case, those 30% returns are great. And if you're rolling up, you have potential to get those 100, 200, 1,000% trades, which is what we really like to do, and we really want to see other people getting involved in those. But when we're looking at these extended Fibonacci levels, and there's a gap from 303 to 315, and there's not much resistance in between, there's no reason for us to panic. Instead, we're going to put more into it. But again, we're doing it risk-free. And if you're chasing, make sure you cover your entries at break even.
Perfect. I appreciate the explanation and insight there. I will have more questions, I promise I'm going to come back to, but I do want to start spreading the ball around the court a little bit
Absolutely.
here. And Andrew, you have had your hands up for a while now. Appreciate you being patient. What's going on, man?
What's going on? First of all, I want to shout out a couple of people. Mel, I did not have First Solar on my watch list, and you brought it up, and now I just added it. The chart looks amazing, so that is awesome. Sarah, I watched one of your streams the other day, and I thought it was so cool. I love the way you think about the markets, and it was super funny too. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check more of those out. In terms of just a couple things I wanted to hit on, one thing that's really interesting me is what's going on with Bitcoin and more specifically GBTC. With GBTC, That's the Grayscale Trust. Most investors that, maybe they have a brokerage account, they want to get some exposure to Bitcoin. That's pretty much what people have been using. Now we have some of these ETF approvals that have come through. And one of my concerns as someone that owns GBTC is, oh my gosh, this thing is an inferior vehicle. It's a trust. It trades at this huge discount to NAV. Like, there could be a mass exodus from GBTC. Today, we actually got a tweet storm by one of the people that works at Grayscale, and they basically said, we just filed with the SEC to have our trust converted to an ETF. So when I saw that, I was super relieved. They were just like the bait.
Broke up for me for a second. Is it just me?
Okay, no, it's me too. I was just making sure it wasn't me.
All right. I'll probably be back in just a second. There you go.
I think I can finish for him. So GBTC is a Bitcoin trust, and right now they trade at 20% discount, right? So when you pay $100 to buy GBTC, in theory you're buying 120 worth of Bitcoin. So the gap is due to them being a trust and not an ETF. So yesterday they filed to be an ETF. If it goes through, the gap will close. So Bitcoin and GBTC right now it's a 20% discount, right? If you think Bitcoin stays flat, GBTC goes up 20%. So in theory, you can go short Bitcoin and long GBTC, and you'll make 20% if the gap collapses.
I appreciate the insight there. Gerg, while you're speaking, talk to me about BBIG.
I mean, BBIG is a garbage company, right? Pump and dump. People sit and expect talk, but no one has heard anything about the company they're merging with. I mean, the CEO, the CFO left, the chairman resigns tomorrow, and they're all leaving, they're all panicking. Will I go short BBIG this price? No, it's not worth it. It's down 20%. Will I buy puts? No, the IV is too high. What's the best thing to do for BBIG? Just avoid it. Find a better prayer.
There you go. I appreciate that. Danny, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch really quickly on exclusive. Didn't know you were a fib trader, so power to the fib traders. I'm all about Fibonacci,
Absolutely.
but one thing that I really like to pair with Fibonacci is Elliott Wave. And if we could just talk about Coinbase just for a minute, because I think this is really important. Couple of things. If you look back to the IPO day, you're going to be surprised, some of you who don't know this, but it went from 310 at the low to 429 at the high during that one day. It was a wild IPO. And we're at what, 305.63. Watch what happens when we hit 310. If we close over 310, because even before 310, we broke the IPO anchored VWAP, which had been 2 points of resistance, well, first in early August and then in mid-September. We blasted through that. We broke out 3 days ago. We retested yesterday, or excuse me, we broke out on Friday. We retested yesterday and blasted off today. Watch what happens to Coinbase when we get over 310. This thing can absolutely rock it. And not just from a technical perspective, but looking at an Elliott wave perspective with a 1-2-1-2 setup, we're about to enter wave 3, which generally is the most explosive wave in the Fibonacci, in the Elliott wave 5 waves. And generally what you see in a third wave is a gap up. And with the way price action has been going with Bitcoin, I would not be surprised in the next week, maybe week and a half, seeing some kind of news come out, or maybe Bitcoin makes this explosive move over next weekend and Coinbase gaps up. This thing can rocket to $400 in a matter of days. Will it? Maybe not. But can it? Absolutely.
I like to call that the inverse Jim Cramer theory.
Yeah.
Inverse Jim Cramer. It's bound to work. Okay. Thank you, Janie. I appreciate that. And also my speakers. I'm going to go to Evan next, stock market news. But if anybody has points you want to come in with, feel free to raise your hand. I'm also going to start picking some individual tickers from the tweet that I put out. Start throwing that out so everybody zone in. This is a good time to be paying attention. And also, just for clear transparency, I also brought up my personal account, which is up here, Golf Blacksburg. So you can see that on the speaker panel if you did want to check about more who I am. Cool. Evan, floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate you for having me. This is an awesome panel of guests we have up here. Awesome. Wolf is always bringing the best people up to get into these spaces. But yeah, so I'm a little bit of a different type of investor to most of the people up here. I'm much more of a long-term investor. I don't really do as many short-term trades. I focus a lot on news and news flow and kind of what's been happening. So just as I've been listening, there's been a couple stocks or points that I want to point to. First was a couple people have touched on Penn National, and I'm definitely in a similar boat to a lot of these people. I have been bullish for a while, ever since they acquired Barstool, or the part of Barstool. So I've owned it over the last year or so, or whatever that has been, and I've added it at points, and then I slowed down for a while. And when I started to get interested in again, much more recently, was the whole DraftKings bidding for the MGM Entain MGM whatever business in the U.S. So that was valued at $22.5 billion. We haven't really heard anything about it, so I don't think it maybe we'll see. I don't think it's been accepted. And then I look over at Penn, which I believe was at around a $10 billion valuation at the time. I don't know exactly what it's at right now. I believe it would be higher. Quickly getting it to, sorry, it's at about 12, 13 right now. But that is still lower, and I just kind of like that arbitrage between it and and with that. Right now, we are fully in earnings season. I'm doing a pretty deep dive into Netflix, their earnings from today. The stock was down. The quarter was all right. It was a solid quarter. Like it was, if you're like Netflix, there was nothing here that really changed anything. It was another quarter along the path. Truthfully, I did come into this with a little bit more of a pessimistic view on Netflix. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I like the industry, but I just, have some thoughts about it, maybe some other names that I like better. But as I was listening to Netflix on their conference call and looking through the things, I was starting to lean a little bit closer towards being a fan of the stock, or in general, obviously not all the way there, but just kind of the way they were laying out the possibility for growth in the future was really compelling to me, talking about really kind of the best comparison to it could be what Disney has. Disney is amazing at coming out with a hit movie and then not only having that movie, but having the merchandise to go along with it, video games. Even they have entire parks to put advertise and make money from it on. And I don't think Netflix theme parks are anywhere close, but video games and merch and everything like that, there's a lot of growth along that. And they were talking about how they might not add huge significant numbers to the business compared to the core streaming business, but it kind of just will continue the growth and continue to make it larger and larger, and help the virality even more. So there's a lot going on with Netflix that I find really interesting. So Bitcoin all-time highs. I feel like that's obviously it's really easy to say we're going to hit all-time highs again when we're at 500. Actually, we are literally at all-time high. Nope, sorry, we're 1,000 under it. But when we're $1,000 away from all-time highs, it's easy to say we're going to hit all-time highs again, but it feels like that's where we're going right now. Who knows what's going to happen after that? Obviously, all the crypto stocks, related stocks, will move off of Bitcoin. So, if it's going to fly, all those stocks are going to move as well. So, I mean, any thinking on the crypto stocks, I think really kind of the base for it has to be what is crypto and what's crypto doing. I think that so it's like when I look at a Mara or Riot or whatever, I don't even look at the company first. I go to what's Bitcoin doing to get my thoughts on that. And finally, last thing that I won't hog it much more, we were talking about the Apple event, and someone said that Apple events really kind of become like a non-event for the stock price. And honestly, I would take it even a step further. Apple events really have been over the last couple of years a big buy the hype, sell the actual event type events. So, the stock will run up into the big event and then it will sell off after it. This one was a little bit of a weird one because we did have the run up there was it was coming down off of a previous high before that, so there was some room to run, but the stock has done better after it. And truthfully, what they announced, it was nice, but it wasn't anything crazy for the stock price. So I am a little surprised to see it higher and break the trend. But overall, the event was pretty solid. One thing that, and this will be the last thing, I promise, but one thing that I feel like Apple is better at any other company in the world at is having an amazing feature that we all love that becomes really simple and should be there, like an HDMI cord, then take it away from us, and then 2-3 years later give it back, and to big fanfare, and it become a super positive for a new device. So Apple's an expert at that. Rip to the dongle. Hopefully that's gone forever. And yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate that. I'm looking forward to your breakdown of Netflix in your newsletter. Always good stuff coming from you, and I'm glad we're hosting together every single day this week. Never gets old. All right, let's keep the ball rolling with a couple individual tickers. So first off, Wolfie, are you still able to talk, or are you on your way to the Lakers game?
I got 10 minutes.
Cool. You want to give me your thoughts on Baba?
Yeah, same. I mean, so a lot of these, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but a lot of these names, right? They get beaten up, on a daily time frame, weekly, whatever, and they just get to a point where unless you like believe the company's gonna have a material delisting or something like that, then they open the door for opportunities. So I guess I could try to put together a chart so you can see it, but essentially there's like Bob has been in a downtrend since September of last year or October of last year. It peaked out last year at 320, and ever since then it's been in a downtrend. So 130 on Baba was support that held, in 19 and 20 and 2017. So we kind of got close to that level and then informed some sort of support ahead of it. So we got about $3 away from the line that I'm talking about. And it was in this downtrend, this exaggerated downtrend, and it just broke out above it. So the the reason that I like using the 5 day is because to me it's the average price that a individual has held for the last 5 days. So for the last week, that's been the average price. So that's like the that's the line in the sand, right? So on a lot of these moves, and Baba gives you a really good example of this. You get a moment where the 5 day is so far away from the 20 day, which is so far away from the 50, 100, 200, whatever. And so in situations like this, as soon as you start to reclaim those shorter time frames, 5 and 10 days, fine. Um, you have a you'll have a lot of room to the upside to the next one. So in the case of Baba, got down to that major support level within $3. Uh, it literally gapped above the 5 day. So as soon as you got that gap up, and it didn't give it back, because there had been times since it started to fade in June where you would get a gap up and it would just fade back, and it would never close above that 5 day. So as soon as it closed above that 5 day, it's just been riding it the whole way. So that's one. Two, it's getting today. I think it got within like 50 cents of a gap that it had back in mid-August, which kind of like accelerated the selling. So you're pressed up against a supply zone of like 178. If it can get through there, and who knows, like we can wake up tomorrow and it'll be gapped up, right? So if it can get through there, your next level that you're looking for is the 100 day, which sits at like 186. And then if it can really just kind of muster through, you're looking at the 200-day exponential moving average, which kind of falls in line with that mega downtrend that we're in on Baba. So Baba's a good example to look at in hindsight, right? So like you can look at it from a perspective of like what happened, where are we, yada yada yada, right? But if you just take a look at some of the moves that happened in some of these names today, so you just take a look at like Tilray, right? Um, we're sitting right up against the 50 day, and then above that you have roughly 20% till you get to that next major moving average. So essentially, that's kind of like the game here, in my opinion. And you saw it with Fastly. In Fastly's case, it got above its 5 day, and it just kind of held there for a day or two. And then once other moving averages came in as support, it took off. And you have this like large disconnect between support underneath, and then you have large resistance ahead, but there's this large valley between them. That's kind of like been the MO. FedEx is another example you can take a look at. FedEx is like literally pressed up against its 20 day. It's being held by its 5 day support. It's kind of like pinched there. And then it's got a major downtrend and a gap to contend with that really gives you upside from 230 all the way to like 250 before you start to see material you know, resistance again. So it's kind of like the same play across the board. And if you just take a look at, Baba, whether it's Baidu, whether it's KWeb in general, these names got so beaten up and they got so extended that they create this snapback motion basically. Now, in terms of Chinese names in general, they've been outperforming even on a relative basis. So even like when they were selling, back in mid-September, they were performing on a relative basis. So you get tells like that across the board. And it doesn't have to necessarily be that a stock is going up. It could just be that it's going down less than the overall market. And then you're starting to see more China-related names start to perform. So last week we talked about Caterpillar. It did the same thing, right? So like Caterpillar broke out of a downtrend and then it's gone up $6 in 2 days, basically. On one of the days, it was up like four, I think. So yeah, so essentially, those are the kinds of moves that I'm looking for. I'm looking for major downtrends that get broken. If they can consolidate above the breakout point, that's even better for me because then you get more and more of that support. But you can go through across the board and just kind of take a look at a lot of these names that have ran, and you can even start with like Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin, as soon as it reclaimed its 5 day, it never looked back. It's just momentum, 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 momentum. And that's kind of like how I look at it. I know I'm rambling now, so I'll let you ask questions if you have any.
Oh, good, man. I appreciate the insight there. And yeah, I think you're definitely right with finding those key levels. And it's interesting to see how the Chinese stocks, still outperformed. And I am going to dig a little bit further into them in a minute. I just want to point out, super cool that he was in here. Kayvon, I think it's Bakepore, who's a product lead at Twitter and basically like designs most of Twitter, was just chilling in here with us and hanging out. So love to see that. I am actually collaborating with Twitter Spaces on a couple of projects. I think I'm going to do a financial literacy space with Twitter Spaces in a week or two. We did one before, actually, Jonah. I think you were on it. And I think we're going to do another. And then that will go over like different styles of investing and stuff. And I really want to keep mixing it up because I do think that there are different investing styles that fit everybody. And although we're talking about, swing trading and day trading in here, that may not be your bread and butter. And there really is different things that work for different people. So next week, I'm going to make sure to have both technical and fundamental spaces, so separate. One focus on fundamentals, one focus on technicals. I might do a crypto space. I'm going to do a cannabis space. I'm going to do an NFT space, possibly two or three of them, and some others. Just to continue to bring out transparency and just forefront. And like, if this isn't like what you're great at, and you don't have time to sit there for hours and chart during the day, like that's totally fine. There's different strategies. Not even on this panel. Myself and Evan, we might sit here and watch more than we trade, and some others are trading every 5 minutes, and that's okay. It's what works best for you, and you can time the market, you can have timing in the market. Just continue to experiment, but at least have I think have some skin in the game, and hopefully this conversation is helping you figure out where you want to have some of that skin in the game. So Juicy, I want to throw it back to you, and I'm totally open if there's any specific tickers you want to talk about. I'd love to hear your thoughts on AFRM and Snapchat, but anything that is on your radar, I would love to hear from you.
So for me, like I said before, AFRM, we talked about momentum. It's in this momentum phase, all right? So, we broke this downtrend line. If you were to draw a high, if you were to draw a trend line from February 10th, that high, you could connect it right here on September 24th. You actually got the breakout on October 6th, and that was your entry in Q to go long. Ton of volume here. I know a lot of traders are going to say it's extended. I think this is a hold. If you're in it, I think you're in your best interest. You should be looking to hold it as long as it holds above 145.70, which is the bottom of the day from October 18th. In the last 3 days behind it, you see that's forming out a little bit of a base. You also got the 9 EMA right there, and right below it, you got the 20. So you have some areas of support if you're in this a hold. But right now, I wouldn't be looking to add on exposure to this particular stock just because of how extended it is. I would expect this to either go sideways, maybe churn just a little bit. But right now, while all this volume's here, this is at the top of everybody's radar. I've been in and out of this thing a couple times on the way up myself. I don't think right now is the time to add long-term exposure. I would let it range out, make a new high, then I think it will continue to go. On my list for tomorrow, first things first, looking at financials, looking at Goldman, as somebody said, they did kill earnings. If you're looking at the flow, we got some pretty big options flow coming into Goldman Sachs today. Some nice deep dark pools. Let me pull up here. I'm using trade ticks to pull them up. We got $2-3 million bets coming in today on Goldman Sachs. You also are inside on the daily. 416 would be my trigger to go ahead and get long. I'll be looking for this to go to 420, then 425 on the short term. Next one I've got on watch is going to be Snapchat. I'm actually watching Snapchat itself. I did see some decent flow come into Snap today. You also went inside. So for me, I'd be looking to get long above 78.15 for a move back to 79.62, then move up to 82.40. And I look to get short below 73.90 for a move back down to 70.31. So for me, I like to just give tips and advice. Always like to tell everybody, especially if you're a short-term trader, always have an upside plan and a downside plan because you never know where that stock's going to go. We like to use technicals and fundamentals, but at the end of the day, price is going to do what price does. So have a plan for both sides. But that's pretty much it for me.
Great points there. And, I love the lingo coming out when you said it's an inside, just for anyone who's unfamiliar. If you take a look, I think you could get for free on Thinkorswim. I know a lot of us do use TrendSpider. If you want to use TrendSpider, I actually have a code that I can send you that I believe will get you 25% off. You can also do a 7-day free trial. So listen, they're not sponsoring this space, but shout out TrendSpider. I love using their software. But the inside day means is that open and close basically were both inside of yesterday's candle. So you can kind of look at that and see that the top and the bottom of the green candle today on Snapchat were inside of that top and bottom of the red candle yesterday. So that points to consolidation, which can often, if we then come through what Juicy was talking about with breaking off of this volume ledge here on Snapchat, which is sitting right on top of 76, 46. That consolidation can then leap as bigger money comes into it. So that's just something to continue to keep an eye on. Okay, I would love to come back to our ladies real quick, and then I'll go to you, Andrew. Mel, wanted to come back to you and get your thoughts on perhaps Palantir or Upstart or LC. Any of these names that have really been trending. I'm certainly getting plenty of people asking about those in the comments.
Palantir was one that you all spoke about earlier this week when you had Jake, Ben, and a few others on. And we have been seeing larger dark pool activity, but I think we're just still range bound. And that's something I think Danny's brought up before. It's one of the ones that kind of tend to pop and don't really hold those levels that you really want to wait for that breakout. It seems like we're just building a really long base, which could certainly build up energy, but not really seeing anything that's longer term that's really sticking out, because it just seems that although we've had some activity, even this morning you had a great pop and a fade intraday. So that one's kind of been a frustrating one, frustrating to trade. I think you really want to get that breakout. LC, I do like that name. I'm not seeing anything that's been coming through. I think the technical setup is nice here, just really tight price action. So I think you've got a nice technical setup, just not seeing anything money flow wise to kind of be able to add to that. Otherwise, personally, one that I'm looking at, and we just kind of to follow up, because I think all the panelists last week were definitely on this one. So we had some great conversation with everybody being able to add their insights, was GDRX with a nice breakout from this downtrend line. That's also putting us above this pivot high anchored VWAP. And then the price action still holding above IPO anchored VWAP. So I think we've got some nice action setting up into this name. And just a reminder on that one, a smaller float with higher short interest. So we've got about 69% in the float, but 22% of that held short. So that sets up a potential for a short squeeze should price really start to continue to the upside and gain some traction and momentum.
Yeah, how about that GDRX? And you're anchoring that VWAP from the high, right? The high back on September 21st?
I did not do it from the high. I did it from the pivot high. So to where we tried to break out. That's going to be, September 20. I see what you're saying. September 21st,
Right, not the high,
correct?
not the high. Yes, exactly. The
Yes,
21st, the
yes.
attempted breakout high.
Yep.
Yeah, and for those who are unfamiliar, this is something that we had a full call on last night with the creator of Anchored VWAP, which is Brian Shannon, and it is fully recorded and on my YouTube, on my Spotify. I posted it out. Essentially, there are a couple different really utilized technical analysis indicators. Often people will refer to something like a moving average, right, which is simply just kind of the average across, and people use the 200-day, the 150, sometimes the 21, the 5, if you want to get into those. But then we also can look at something like the volume weighted average price, which is often, I think, especially by Brian, referred to as something that is much more accurate. But essentially, that will allow you to tag a specific point on the chart. And in this case, we're looking at GDRX and we're looking at the September 21st highs. And we're saying from that point on the chart, where is the average person? Where is their price that they're holding at? So what we're looking at here is that came down and it kind of was traversing sideways to the right at $42.67 for a little bit. And it attempted to break out through it a couple times, and you could kind of see wicks. And then you can see today, it just spiked right above it. So if you go to Brian Shannon's page, which is at Alpha Trends, you'll be able to see today he posted a few charts where it was kind of like a clear indicator of the usage of volume weighted average price. I'm just pulling those up real quick. So he pointed out that with GNRC, he showed it multiple times where he anchored from the lows and then it popped off when it came down to hit it. And then he also showed it with KEYS. And if you look at it right now, Pfizer, which is PFE, if you anchor it from the lows, it literally just touched right onto it today, basically sitting on top of it. So, he posted that he's not currently holding PFE, and he just wants to know if anyone thinks that it'll be a mistake that he's not. So it's a little bit of a different indicator, because if you look at PFE right now, there is no, there's a 100-day moving average, which is, I guess, close to it, but there's no specific volume edge to look at. The RSI is not remarkable, but if you can bring more things into the picture and see, okay, wow, well, most people are actually holding right around here, that's when you can sometimes see those pops, or conversely the other way around, right? Because a lot of technical analysis indicators work as both support and resistance depending on which way you're coming from. So just something to keep in mind there.
I have one other one that I'm looking at today that I thought was pretty interesting. Here is Playboy. So we've definitely had this one sell off, was able to come down and have basing pattern. We were really tight in this wedge with a breakout today on volume. Again, holding price above average weighted VWAP. But just another one that you don't see much in often. And we had some puts closing yesterday with some calls opening today. And I mentioned this one just because of the nature of the float. This is one of those growth names where you have a very small float and you tend to get those larger price moves quicker as that float starts to churn, since you don't have as much available. And this one does have notable short interest still as well. So that's one I'm kind of keeping an eye on going into this week as a possible ER run up.
Perfect. Yeah, going to keep my eye on that too. And also, Shark, I know you're off, but big shout out to Shark, whose team is recording tonight. And also, if you're listening here about technical analysis, I just highly recommend you follow all the people on this panel. This is going to be one of the best groups that's going to guide you through different areas. I will give credit for bringing me into technical analysis as a beginner, showing me the ropes, showing me through different platforms, and what he and his team have built is just, incredible. And I've seen his growth from 1,000 followers to, 20x that. So really impressed by what you've done. Andrew, going to you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I disconnected earlier, but one name that I'm looking at for tomorrow, and there's not really too many names I'm interested in, is AMD. So AMD, along with the semiconductors group, it looked like these guys were down and out for the count, but AMD had a really nice move to the upside, and it's now pretty much trading back to the prior all-time highs. And this one put in a really nice candle yesterday. I was pretty much watching the auction at AMD for the better part of today's trading session, and there was no success in auctioning this thing down. The dip buyers immediately came in and bought it right up. What I'm looking at in terms of entering this name is it's kind of tough because right now it is extended from the 20-day moving average. Typically, when you're entering stocks, the farther away you are from that 20-day, the more risk you have of getting shaken out. So this one definitely has to be handled delicately. What I'm looking for is dips to the 115 level. The reason why I'm looking for dips to that level is because there's a really high level of options open interest at the 115 strike. These dealers are really long gamma at that level. And another thing that has me interested in this name is I'm seeing bullish call flow. And yesterday, the largest options order that came in for AMD was there was a large buyer that purchased the January 2022 175 strike for AMD. So that got me really interested in the name. So this is definitely one that I'm watching into tomorrow.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Is that just me, or is anyone else hearing him break up a little?
Hey,
Yo,
Wolf, you
Gav,
turned into a robot.
Gav, you're frozen.
Yeah, I'm breaking up. Okay.
Better
Sound
now.
good
Well,
now.
hopefully
Good
it'll
now.
get a little bit better. All right. Well, shout out to my pretty trash service, and not being on Wi-Fi, but it's okay. We'll get the Wi-Fi fixed. I hope that my voice is all good now. I was just saying, I see that there are people requesting. I have all my speaker spots currently filled, which is why I haven't brought anybody up. Because I have 2 co-hosts, I have 10 speakers. That's what Twitter Spaces allows you to do. And no pressure to my speakers. You are all planned out, so that's why we're doing this. Somebody also asked in the comments, they said, how often do you do these? We do this every Tuesday night, and I assume that this group, I've really really grown to love them and enjoy speaking with them. I think we'll probably be back on here probably every Tuesday night for a while. And then there's also other spaces tomorrow, just on Wednesday. Tomorrow at noon, I'm going to have him with Jonah Lupton. We'll be talking over growth stocks. I'm sure I'll be grilling him on all of his purchases. And then at 3 p.m. EST, myself, Stock Market News, will be doing one with The Street. So that'll be with Catherine Ross and a couple of other people. And then also at 6 p.m. EST, I'll be doing one on real estate with Chris Peruna. So if you want to be able to really dive into some fascinating stuff, make sure that you are checking out all of those. And again, I have a free Google Calendar. All you have to do is DM me, say, hey, please add me to the calendar, and send me your email, and I will add you to it. I have a ton of people in the DMs who have asked me to do it. I'm going to do it all after this space because I'm really trying to pay attention because this is good stuff. Also, big shout out to our listeners who have been here. I know some of you, you came in even though you weren't necessarily on speaker site, and Luke Dene. Shout out to my mom who's been hanging out in the crowd. She's a big finance woman, so love her and happy to have her in here, and then everyone else who's chilling with us. Keeping it rolling. Back to you, Exclusive.
Yeah, so I was actually going to piggyback off of what he was just saying about AMD, and it is from a technical standpoint. We're looking at it from, okay, so we had the break from the downtrend from the highs in August, of course. So it's been on a really big rip and tear. So right now we've got a naked point of control right at looks like 118.88, and today it actually dipped down to a previous pivot at 114.49, and the golden pocket is currently at 114.43, which for me as a bull trader, that's the perfect opportunity for me to buy the dip, which is why it immediately got bought up. So that's just from a technical standpoint. That's why I had the 118 calls, because I'm looking for that move back into the 117, which is the 0.786 fib level. So I'm looking for that move too. So definitely wanted to just second that from a technical viewpoint too.
Perfect. So we're DMing about it right now, and we're talking about TIGR, potential rally, might add in a day or two. And I'm looking at this chart, and first off, I'm terrified of the Chinese stocks that have been burned. But and Jonah, I'm probably going to ask you about this tomorrow. You'll probably be like, no, I don't want to trade any of those. But essentially with TIGR, it's kind of catching right back onto that bottom volume shelf. Like, I mean, you can literally see it just touching, and if it could come back to that 50-day, man, I think we get a spike. I mean, one more time, me saying I think is not financial advice. It's literally just me pondering right here. So, can you give me a little bit more context on there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So looking at it from the beginning of the IPO, so that's the bottom of the IPO range, right at $8. So you're seeing it holds the 734 pivot. And I highlighted those negative fib levels just for anyone who was wondering what I was talking about. And you see it pull back above the 0.886 fib level. So I'm still waiting for, there was some China power issues and, the Chinese names as a whole, there's a lot of false breakouts and false rallies. So I don't like to get too ahead of myself when it comes to Chinese names. Baba was just one that was severely beaten down. But from a technical standpoint, you have a strong pivot, you have the IPO bottom. I just look at the IPO, and since then, when you look at that movement in April, from April to, towards the end of April, early June, it reached, the 22, 23, 24 levels before it dove down to, below $8. So we're basically looking at it from a, really zoomed out standpoint, and we're saying, okay, if this can get back into the IPO range that it started at, this might attract some additional buyers that weren't necessarily around at the beginning of 2019. And we could see a rally like we had at the end of last year when this thing went over 28. So those are the kind of moves that when you zoom out and you look at the bigger time frames and not just necessarily intraday, you can kind of catch these moves before they happen. And if you zoom in a little bit further, you can see there's some downtrends, there's some moving averages that you can base entries on, but that's like the big overall picture that we're looking at. Is this has a potential to do that rally that it's already made twice from the $8 to the 20 range. I'm not saying it's going to do that at all, but we might be able to catch a couple dollar move here on some swings that are really low risk.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm going to continue to keep my eye on that too. Things that I watch this. I see that hands. I'm just bringing in a couple people who haven't spoke as much real quick, and then I'll go to you, Andrew. So, Gerg, been a little quiet. Anything else on your mind? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I heard about Baba, right? So for me, I was loading up Baba at 150, 140, but just sold all of my Baba at 170. Like, you guys talking about TIGR, right? I like TIGR, but I wouldn't bet against the Chinese government, right? They want to start imposing restrictions against them and the other brokerages, right? You have Tiger and two more. I mean, look at Baba, look at other stuff, right? Tencent, they done 50% plus just because of Chinese government. I wouldn't bet against them. It's better just avoid the place for now. That's why I sold all of my Baba. So right now, the only Chinese stock I own is YY. So right now, it trades under cash. It's a growing business, 30% year over year. They have almost 10 different industries they're in. They're in dating, they're in finance, social media, marketing. So right now, it's at 55. But the biggest shareholder, they plan to take this private at $80. So almost a 30 to 40% return if that happens. Look into YY if you want to buy a Chinese stock.
I do see you posting about that pretty often in the Discord. So yeah, continuing to keep my eye on YY. That's Joy Inc. for those who are looking at that. It's interesting. It's sitting nicely, kind of right above that 50-day, right inside the 100-day right now. I listen. I don't know if I don't put as much stock in the 100-day personally because I always see things kind of moving off the 50. And I'm also wondering with the anchored VWAP right here, if you were to take that from the highs, yeah, I mean, we're pretty below the anchored VWAP, which in a lot of times, so just looking at that, if the anchored VWAP right now from the highs is $78, let's say, it's around there, and the stock's sitting at $58, you know, a lot of people who are kind of getting in towards that run up are currently at a loss, which can often make them, I think, less likely to sell there. A lot of them don't want to take that loss. So that could just be one interesting thing to keep on there. So I appreciate that, Gerg. Also, one thing this is on a separate topic. One thing I want to discuss in the space next week is going to be tax loss harvesting. As we get closer to the end of the year, I want more people to be familiar with the concept of tax loss harvesting and the ability to be able to sell some of your stocks in order to write off some of the gains or losses, or I guess you would be writing off the losses against your taxes in this case. So don't worry too much about that right now. We're going to get more into it, I think, in another space next week. Okay. All right, Andrew, coming back to you.
Yeah, so in terms of the view of just be more cautious on these Chinese names, I really respect that because, with these names, they're not for the faint of heart. And there is that added risk, that, we don't know what the Chinese government is going to do or say. At any point, like Futu and Tiger, for instance, those stocks, they were shaping up nicely, and then a regulation comes in and hits the space. For me personally, I'm a full-time trader. I'm super active. Risk control is my MO. So for me personally, I love the fact that there's a lot of players that are super worried about this space and they've already exited due to those concerns. So for me, I feel comfortable knowing if this trade goes south on me, it's not going to be something that I'll lose sleep over. If you're at that point where if you lose trades, it's a huge, big deal. It's really going to hurt you. Then yeah, I think this is a really tough space to be active in. Another space that this is one of my other biggest positions. So my biggest positions, I'm always just super transparent. I love to just tell people where I'm at. So Hut Mining, we talked about that, a couple of weeks ago. I have my call spread on. That's one of my big positions. K-Web and Baba. And then the small caps. And the small caps, this is a space that I don't think many people are really watching this too closely. But with the Russell 2000, and you can just play this with an ETF. The ticker symbol you could use is IWM. IWM has been stuck in a range for literally 8 to 10 months. It has gone nowhere. It just recently broke a short-term downward trend line, and now the small caps are trading above their monthly value area. Small caps during this entire 6 or 7 week corrective sequence that the market had, the small caps have been showing relative strength. And the reason why I really like this setup, and it's one of my bigger positions, is because the seasonality for small caps really improves beginning in November. If you look at the big run that the small caps had last year, if you pull back the chart, you'll see that run started in November. And we already talked about earlier in this session that now we're starting to see some of those areas that haven't moved at all during the year starting to have moves, like solar stocks, like cannabis stocks, some Fastly. Some of these names you wouldn't really expect are moving. Even China, nobody would expect that. It's been a horrible place to be, moving. So these small caps, I think they're really sitting on the launch pad, and I'm looking for the breakout in the small caps as we get into November. So I'm positioned. I have calls going out to January for the IWM. And it's an area I definitely think it's worth just, watching this space, see if any more flows come into it, especially as we get to November.
Yeah, that's one that we actually talked about for a while last night with Ben from Pattern Profits. He was definitely bullish on that as well. He was talking about the exact same things as you. So I am going to move into a little bit of wrap-up, so stick around because each one of these speakers is going to give some points and some takeaways, so you'll definitely want to be hearing that. I also said this all the way in the beginning, but for anyone who's unfamiliar, the reason why I'm able to host all these spaces and to be on here is because of the Wolf app. So I do work for Wolf. I run our socials. I'm our community director. So the links in my bio, it's wolf.financial. Several of these speakers are on the Wolf app. They're posted on the Wolf app. We have thousands of people interacting on there daily. It is a hub for people who want to communicate. So if you're enjoying this space and you're like, I like learning from these type of people, you need to be on the Wolf app. In addition to that, every single day we do giveaways in the app. So literally just for posting, if you come on there and you say, hey, what's everyone's thoughts on Upstart today? You're instantly entered into a raffle. We do $25 raffles every weekday, $50 on the weekends, and we're going to be upping it soon. So listen, if that's not good enough reason, I don't know what is. You should be hopping in there, and I would be deeply appreciative of you doing that. That would be huge for me too, because listen, that's how I keep my job. So that's how we keep this thing rolling. With that being said, going to move into a little bit of wrap up for each of the speakers, just a minute or two. If there's anything else that's on your radar, and anything else you just want to say. And Vegas, would it be okay if we start with you?
Sure. So just before we wrap up, I just wanted to just comment also to keep a watch. We talked a lot about the financials, how a lot of the banks have already had their earnings, and we saw a lot of action in some of these bank stocks. Still waiting for Morgan Stanley, as I mentioned earlier, but definitely liking Visa. Visa is looking really good for a continuation here. So I think, Visa is a really good one. I love trading Visa. So I think Visa is a really good swing trade at these levels right here. And also Zoom. I mean, Zoom had a nice move today, headed towards 279.81. Was actually hoping for that to break that 280 level. So keep a watch on the 280 level. I think once Zoom can break that 280, then I think we'll definitely see some action on Zoom. So that's going to be a nice level to break. And I think we have a little bit of resistance there. And I thought we would have had an opportunity today, but that didn't happen. But definitely, don't put that on your watch list. Watch that 280 level, and if that does actually break through, then I think we'll definitely see a move to the upside on Zoom. So just wanted to comment on those two as well before we close up for the night.
Awesome. Well, continue to keep my eye on those as well. I know that those are some that we've chatted over. Visa's always been interesting, especially as it kind of rides that 200-day moving average. It's actually moved kind of similar to SPY, interestingly enough. I guess a little bit more tilted, but hey, it's back up through the 50, just broke through the 100 today, right on top of this volume ledge. I like the setup as well. Good call there. Thank you, Vegas.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
who
All right.
mentioned IWM? Was that Andrew?
One more time.
Who mentioned IWM before that? I think Andrew or
Yeah, that
Andrew.
was me.
Yeah,
Andrew.
Andrew.
So I see the chart on the top for IWM. So if you look at the historic performance, IWM has been green for last 8 years, every April and every November. And so far the trend is continuing. So you might be better off moving your calls to November instead of February. So the chart is on the top. That's month-to-month performance for IWM. The most bullish month of the year is November, and IWM goes up by 7% on average. December is flat, so is January too. So take that eat up your calls for these 2 months. So November seems to be a best bet.
There you go. Big historicals guy. Cool. Shark. I see his
My bad,
hand
real
up.
quick. Yeah,
Also would love
sorry.
any closing
No, I
thoughts
was
from you.
actually just saying. Yeah, just was saying with IWM actually. I was actually having a talk with TrendSpider Jay about this and how it's been channeling for several weeks lately. If you look at the weekly chart, and it's almost like it's consolidating for an extended period of time, looking for some momentum, to the upside or down. And both of us kind of agree that we both think this is probably going to break out to the upside relatively soon here. In November, looking at what Gavin posted is right in line.
Perfect. And any closing thoughts from you? Shark?
Sorry, I'm losing you a little bit just because I'm out at dinner. But what'd you say?
Oh, now
think he
Wolf's
was
cutting
asking
out.
if you had any specific stocks or anything for like closing thoughts.
I can't hear Shark, but I think my sound should be good, right?
It's better now. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right. I think Shark is rejoining, but listen, Shark's great. I've vouched for him for sure, and he's out at dinner, so no worries bothering him. Danny, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah, big shout out to Ben Pattern Profits. He actually likes to track IWO, which is the growth component of the Russell 2000. So that might be a good place to see if growth starts to break out. Small caps should start to move. Touching really quick on China, just keep an eye on the Evergrande situation. There's been some contagion into other Chinese developers, and the Chinese economy has slowed down. I would just keep a close eye on that contagion to see how it may affect other stocks in the Chinese market. And then going back into what I'm watching into the end of the week, I'm liking Penn. I like where it's setting up. I'm also liking coin. Maybe it's extended, maybe it explodes, but I'm in already, so I'm happy with my position. Um, Keep a close eye on Square. Square is right at the swing high anchored VWAP. I did take an entry over 254 today, but 258, let's say 258 and change is really going to be my main breakout level. I'll add some calls and add some shares there. I think if we get over that 258, 259 level, I think this thing can really start to scream up. I've been watching Affirm. It kept bouncing off that 154 level today. I think if it holds 154, I think Affirm can go pretty far. It had some pretty interesting, unusual call activity on Monday, yesterday. The 200 calls for November 19. So I thought that was pretty interesting and aggressive. And Hut. Hut pulled back. I was in. For some reason, I sold out my position yesterday at about 100%, and I thought maybe we would be coming into some resistance. It actually pulled back nicely today, caught it right off of an anchored VWAP, got right back in, and picked up those 13 calls for November, and they're already up about 20%. So those are really the four names that I'm going to be watching. There's a lot of other things going on. Activision looks pretty decent, but it's a slow mover. Snapchat is showing some strength. But it's got earnings on Thursday. PLTR is looking interesting again, but again, it's not over $29. And the last one I'll leave off is Microsoft. If you're not subscribed to my newsletter, it's free. It comes out on Sundays. That was my pick of the week for this week. It moves. So we talked about this, I think, yesterday, Wolf. It moves so little, but man, those calls really paid, and it's continuing to pay. So watch for Microsoft to continue to move up. And I lied. One more. AMD. I mean, it looks good. It looks like it's over that 114 pivot. So I think AMD is primed to go back to all-time highs. Thanks again for your time, man. Really appreciate all these spaces. Thanks to all the listeners and the panelists. It's been great being with you these last few months. Really appreciate your time, everybody.
Absolutely, Danny. Always great having you on. And Danny posts some amazing just news throughout the day. And as you could hear with his active trading, he's living the dream, to be honest. So you might as well tune in. And yeah, it's a pleasure to host these spaces. It really is a great fun time. And although I might have to start getting some throat lozenges with all these hours, I'm not stopping anytime soon. I'm already planning out several for next week. We're just going to keep them coming. And also, like, these messages are so cool. Like, people are DMing me that they're in the UK and it's like 3 a.m. and they're just staying up for this. So listen, y'all are amazing. I gotta say, inspirational. Evan, Stock Market News, would you like to go next? And real quick before Evan goes, Evan is my co-host. This guy, we're hosting every single day this week. We did spaces yesterday. We're doing a space tomorrow. He co-hosts with The Street. So I really, Evan's already at 120,000 followers for a very good reason, and we should keep bumping that up. Evan.
I appreciate that, man. Putting in a lot of work. We're getting close to 120K. We're less than 500 away, so getting close, putting the work. I appreciate you. Quickly, if anyone here is into Netflix or Tesla, I am doing deep dives into those earnings for my newsletter. Just click into my profile. It's actually pretty cool, the new feature Twitter has put in, where you can kind of include the newsletter directly on your feed. It makes it a lot better for anyone with the newsletter, and for anyone who's looking to find them, it makes it easier to find. So really quickly find into my profile for that. And then I do just want to add, like Wolf said, we are co-hosting a couple of spaces. but that doesn't even touch the amount of spaces Wolf is doing. That's an understatement. He is literally going live 2 to 3 times every single day. I think there's maybe one day in there, but every other day is 2 to 3 times a day. If you enjoy listening or sitting into spaces, just having good financial talk on in the background, you do have to be following Wolf. It's just a must follow, honestly. You're going to be getting so much content and so much to choose from, a wide variety of stuff. So make sure you give Wolf a follow. Make sure you give all the speakers up here a follow. And, as always, I really appreciate all the listeners who came in here and got the value from the amazing speakers to make this stuff worth it. So thank you for hosting this, Wolf.
Always a pleasure, man, and couldn't do with anyone better by my side. Juicy.
Hey guys, again, as always, man, Wolf, it's a pleasure being on here. I really appreciate, what you're doing for the community here by putting us all together and giving us an opportunity to give information back to the people. But all I wanted to say is a couple things. Number one, I'm watching Goldman Sachs into tomorrow, Snapchat, ATVI, and Crowd. If you follow me on Twitter, I posted the levels and targets. These are quick day trades in and out, so manage your risk accordingly. But one thing I want to tell everybody here, if you want to grow as a trader, the first thing you have to do is surround yourself around other traders. And you're only going to do that through FinTwit right now, right? So be sure to follow everybody here so that you guys can learn and grow. Big shout outs to Exclusive, Andrew, and Danny, you my mans, and everybody else here on the panelist side. Be sure to follow everybody. Follow me on the Wolf app. But besides that, I'm out of here, guys. I appreciate everything you guys do. And I'm almost at 20K, and I love all of you guys, so be easy. Have a good one, and let's kill it tomorrow.
Absolutely, Juicy. I know you'll be at 20K very soon. Can't wait for that to be reality. Juicy's doing a ton to the community. Anything else?
Wolf, you were cutting out there a little again. I think you need to repeat it.
Sorry about that. Is my voice back in? Is this any
For the
better?
most part, yeah, I think you're good.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Oh, perfect. I was just saying thank you to Juicy for everything he does. Here, would you like to go?
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm watching UAL. I'm also watching BBIG. And I'm also watching Novavax. So Novavax, after us, is down to 25%. And as they have new supply chain issues, so it might be a good bounce back play for tomorrow in VAX. And the earnings I'm watching for Thursday, I think the main one is Snap. The flow has been incredible, like very, very bullish. People are loading up on the 80 and 85 calls. So, and for tomorrow, Tesla is reporting earnings after hours. I think everyone's gonna watch that too. So, but that won't play Tesla. I think the numbers they report should be through the roof, but it seemed to be already priced in. So, I don't see a lot of upside on Tesla playing the earnings. So, I would just watch this one.
Okay, awesome. I'll be watching this with you. Thank you, sir. Andrew,
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, these spaces are amazing. I truly enjoy, chatting with everyone. I think it's so awesome. Feel free, DM me whenever, hit me up whenever. Anyone that's in the audience, anyone that's a panelist. I just love these conversations about stocks. Like, I'm just obsessed with all this stuff. So yeah, feel free to reach out whenever. And yeah, Wolf, you are the man for hosting these spaces. I can see how much hustle you're putting into these, and it does not go unnoticed, man. This is so cool what you're doing. This is a great service to everyone in the community. So yeah, I really appreciate just being part of it.
well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It certainly felt to me like I found my calling, and the Twitter Spaces team has embraced me, which has been really nice to, be one of the first people in the finance community with it, and now to just take it to the next level. And, I was dabbling in it for a while, 2 spaces a week, but I just wanted to dive head in because, you know what, there's too much good information out there that just doesn't get put into public forums, and it's behind all these paywalls and stuff, and I don't think that's how it should be. I think things should be free and out there. On our Wolf app, there's 0 charges. Everything's free. People can do research, they can collaborate, and it should be the same way in spaces here. So that's what we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep the ball rolling. Again, my schedule is pinned. I've got like 7 more spaces this week, and I'm just going to keep that running into next week. Diverse spaces with diverse panels as well. That's the goal. There's people here from all over the country on this panel. We've got, guys, girls, Gergavin, love you, Gerg. And we're just keeping it rolling. Exclusive, would you like to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as always, man, it's always a pleasure being on these. A lot of great minds, a lot of different styles, man. It's always really awesome just listening to different opinions, different views. It's just really great. As far as some names I'm looking at for the rest of the week, specifically tomorrow, like Juicy was saying, we were talking about GS. Definitely in agreement. We posted a chart towards the end of September. Not really anticipating as much of a move as we have seen over the golden pocket at 403.85. So it's definitely made a move. But yeah, no, it's getting really close to breaking out of this wedge. So that's definitely an aim. And I know I think it was Mel was talking about dark pool data on it. I think it was last week, or I can't remember. But I know there was a couple people talking about it, and it's just getting closer and closer to a bigger move. So definitely got that on my radar. Looking for continuation on AMD. Coin, looking at DraftKings, Penn. Like I said, you got that Netflix earnings lotto. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. And, in the bigger scheme of things, with that being one of the big tech names to go first as far as earnings, it's really going to set up the mood for, potential moves on the rest of them. So I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out tomorrow. And I bought some Apple calls within the last 2 minutes of close, and it was really just that I couldn't make up my mind. But then it caught some volume at 358, so I bought some 145 calls right before the close, and we'll see how those pan out.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see those. Definitely keep us in the loop. And Mel, appreciate you being patient. Would love to hear any thoughts from you.
Oh, no problem. These just keep getting better and better. So thank you for all that you do for the community. I know it's definitely helping a lot of people, getting a lot of really good feedback. Shorter term, there was some spec sweeper activity into NOW software space. So actively keeping an eye on that one. You just don't see a lot come in that name, and when you do, it's typically a little bit more longer term. So seeing if we continue to have momentum in the software space. Otherwise, still like that setup in PLBY, the breakout on GDRX. And I would be amiss and not doing my job if I didn't tell everybody about some activity that came into DPZ yesterday. Domino's Pizza had over 7.31 million in premium going out to March 18th into the 480 call. So that's definitely one of your, like a longer term for those that like to hold for a little bit more. Interesting view on this chart when you go and look at the seasonality. Over the last 10 years, this has not been a very good performer, about 45%, but in November you jump up to 90% strength when reviewing seasonality. Interestingly enough, though, they did come back in today into weeklies, the 470s for DPZ. So like to see that follow-up activity. Seems like you've got potential for maybe a shorter term trade as well as a longer term setup there.
Keeping my eye on those as well. Throughout these calls, and what I recommend everyone is I've just been adding stuff to watch lists. I'm using it on TrendSpider. Again, if you want 25% off TrendSpider, feel free to DM me. I'll send you a code. But I'm just continuing to add names. I'm going to keep these on my radar. We'll bring them up in the next space. You'll see me bring them up from space to space, kind of just this list that's moving. And, we have all these great resources, and Andrew said it. I'm sure the others said it. You can go ahead and DM them if you want more info, right? You can slide in. I'm sure they're willing to answer. I try to answer most of my DMs, but again, I'm not the educator here. I'm trying to be here to be someone that is, bringing the educators together and going to continue to do that to the most of my ability. Also, huge shout out to Gavin. He is just the homie. I'm so proud of him for cracking through 50K. I think he just did that tonight. Incredible to see. I'm very bullish on Gerg. This is someone that has no resistance in sight. There is just support all the way on here out. As for myself, it has been a pleasure chatting with y'all. These ran 2 hours now, and it's just regular, and we just chill and we vibe, and I love it. I'll be back, like I said, 12 p.m. EST. You're not going to want to miss this tomorrow. Jonah Lupton on Spaces talking about growth stocks. I will be asking him about AEHR. I'll be asking about Upstart, Celsius, maybe some SE, Affirm, Snapchat, SoFi. We're going to be bolting these, and y'all know Jonah, we're going to get like the full rundown on every single one of these. So really just be on the lookout for that exclusive. Man, you got something quick? I see his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry,
All right.
you were. I couldn't even understand what you were saying. But no, real quick before we got off here, I wanted to point out because I got a couple DMs about it. The triggers on the profile that we have pinned, those are updated each week before open on Monday. So what these are basically triggers, calls. For instance, SE, we got calls above 355.20, which are obviously up, very, very high. But these are basically triggers in either direction. So, a couple people have said you have to have a plan in either direction, whether you're a bear or a bull. So we have levels that we enter calls on, and we have levels we have enter puts on. So, whenever it goes down and then back to that level, we'll exit and flip the position to the other direction. So there's a lot of money to be made on those. So hopefully people can get some good trades out of those.
Definitely. And just back into it real quick. Like I said, that's going to be happening tomorrow at 12. Then 3 p.m. EST with the straight Evan, stock market news, and some others. And then 6 p.m. EST, real estate Thursday, going to have multiple as well. You probably just have to check on my schedule. Can't remember all these. And then Friday at 12 p.m. and a 4 p.m. EST, again with stock market news. That is our wrap-up space for the week. Such a pleasure hanging out with you all throughout the evening. I gotta say, the DMs tonight have been amazing. You inspired me. I love doing this, but tonight, seeing all the people in the audience that have just been telling me that where they're from, where they're tuning in from, I think this is just absolutely amazing, and I love to see it. So we'll be back very soon. If you have any questions or comments, if you want to be added to the Spaces calendar, just DM me. And this is just the start. Today is day one of this revolution. If you want financial freedom, you know where to find it. All right, health, wealth, and great success. Take care.